YouTube? It's been a little while since I've had the chance to put something together for you folks, and I wanted to take this opportunity to touch on the month of October and how successful of a month it was for me, in spite of me being so dedicated in my time with the students that I was working with, and also planning my travels, which I basically just got back from Chicago for. But more importantly, what I really want to touch on about the recap is when it comes to prop firm management, how I manage my prop accounts, my psychology around it, and how this way of thinking has helped me be a better loser when it comes to blowing accounts, and how it doesn't affect me as much as it used to as I work on my payouts and so forth. With that, if this is your first time here, it would mean a lot to me if you could drop a like and subscribe to the video. I am still a very small time trader, all things considered, but I do believe that there is a lot of value that I can add to the space in which I'm trying to spend more time providing that level of education on YouTube here. So with that, I'm going to get right into it. So first and foremost, I am going to share the screen of my P&L for the month of October. Let's see there. Hopefully that's showing properly on your guys' end there. But as you can see, another spectacular month, almost 100 grand on the P&L. And just want to make it clear that is not payout, though. This is P&L. So meaning depending on what kind of prop accounts I have, a lot of this could be sitting in a kind of account somewhere, right? Um, and so I want to go over some of the stats. I want to go over some of the trading days. I want to talk about my record day of 2025 that was achieved at the end of the month there. And then I'll dive straight into the psychology of trading that I really want to put an emphasis on for a lot of you who are trading in the prop firm space and maybe even potentially trading multiple accounts. So with that, you can kind of see here a very spectacular month, all things considered. Some great win rate, great profit factor, all things considered. And you can see here that based on my average time per trade, because I do get the question asked a lot, am I a scalper? I can scalp. I do occasionally take 10, 15 points here and there on the market, depending on what I'm kind of looking for. Especially if I'm looking for base hits that had maybe like a minimum trading day or whatever that may be, I'll do that. But otherwise, I generally do hold my trades for longer than that, which is why you can see that the average hold time is about 24 minutes. Some of my trades I hold on to for hours, depending on what it is that I'm looking for. But want to just highlight that for some of the newer individuals who are following along the journey. Now, I'm going to go straight into the calendar here, as you can see. Overall, some pretty solid days and solid trades that have been put through. And if you guys are looking at some of these days, you might think like, "Whoa, Alan, that's a lot of trades you've taken on some of these days, like 12 trades on the 7th, 11 trades on the 8th." Understand that the way that this platform at this time, and I say at this time because it's being updated, at this time, the way that it tracks it is that as I trim contracts off of a position, it counts as a trade, which is where some of the additional trades are coming in from. But with that, I also do have multiple accounts. I have about nine prop firm accounts that I am balancing between, some of which I trade, some of which I don't, depending on the given day. I think that that alone is probably a good lesson for the group, is as that if you feel like you have to trade all your accounts all the time, I don't think that's necessarily true. And also, again, for those who are new that are following, I don't copy trade. So you might just think, hey, Alan, why don't you just band all nine accounts together and just copy trade them? I don't do that. If you followed me before, if you watched my old videos, I'll speak a lot to that, and a lot of it plays into the fact that although it may sound great to win on nine accounts with one trade, I think the fact that I could lose on nine accounts with one trade is far more detrimental to my psychology than anything else. Again, I'll allude to that a little bit more later on. With that, overall, a pretty solid month overall. As you can see, you can see that some days I had bigger days and some days I had smaller days, which just shows you that when it comes to managing my expectation of my trades, not every day is going to be a banger, and that's totally okay. I'll take what the market gives. Some days offer cleaner price action, and I'll take it and I'll hold it for longer. Some days I feel like we don't have the right types of setups that I look for, and I'll take a little bit less, right? I had about one losing day on the month, which is pretty solid, as you can imagine. Again, I obviously have losing trades in here because otherwise my win rate would be like 99.99%. So I do lose. I just do a better job of managing my losses and doing my best to obviously not tilt while doing so as well. You can see here on the last day of the month here, that was my record day. And so I achieved the trading day of $14,000 in one day. And that's, I think, what makes that impressive for me is that that's not a culmination of different days. And what I mean by that is that if you actually look at days like Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, you can't really tell right now just by looking at it if that was all done from the New York session or if that's a culmination of the Asia London session and then combining with the New York. What I mean by that is that if you take a look at right now on the Tuesday, it shows $991. But what you don't know is that how much of that was from the New York session of the 28th and how much of it was from the Asia London session, or just actually say Asia session from the 28th as well. So on the Friday, you can tell very quickly it's London or New York, but majority of this was made over the New York session. This was actually a trade that I was streaming live with a few students at the time, and I managed to catch a pretty big trade. So I think it was a culmination of three accounts. I had two take profit trader accounts, in which between the two, I was able to capture $5,000, almost $5,000 on the market. And then the Top Step account, which is the one that I was able to capture another $10,000 day. I think that's actually the second $10,000 day I've been able to capture on Top Step. And I believe I posted that on my stories before as well. So if you're not following me on Instagram already, follow there. I'll generally post a lot of things there as well on the daily about things that I'm thinking about and recaps as well. But the last thing I will capture here before I move on from the calendar is that you can tell here there are some days that have less trades, which means it's okay to not trade all of your accounts. It's okay not to trade every single day. You can see here on the Monday and the Thursday here, I didn't trade those days, right? So I had a break in between my record day and the prior days before that. So really want to just capture those notes there. The next thing I'm going to pivot over to here now is going to be the Excel spreadsheet that I have here. And hopefully this is showing well on your end here. I'm going to expand it a little bit here. But what you're looking at here is basically a tracker. And so I've kind of provided a simulation so that you could kind of see and get a sense of what this is. And this isn't the trades from the month of October. So if you're wondering why the numbers don't add up, that's why. I want to provide a simulation of like a tracker from before, just so you guys can get a sense of like how I manage my accounts. And what you're going to see here is that you can see these accounts. Some of it has a low win rate of 50%. Some of them have a high win rate of 93%. And as you go on with the given days, you have some days that are amazing that are highlighted in green here for win rates, and you have some days that are average and some days that are real bad, right? And I think the takeaway here is that like what I really want to highlight, building on what I mentioned earlier, which is you don't have to trade every single day. If you take a loss, it's okay. And this perspective here, I'm hoping is going to speak to some of you guys because when it comes to prop firms, right, like it's very easy to get, sucked into the whole buys and resets of accounts over and over and over again because they're so affordable to do. It does add up very quickly. And so you don't want to get caught in that rut, right? I think it's important for us as traders is that when we have a losing day or a losing trade, that's okay. And so those are some strict rules for yourselves. I mean, if you're trading with platforms that have the X programs such as TopStep and Tradeify, and I believe Alpha Futures as well, then you have rules that you can make sure that you lock yourself out. If you don't have that, I think that's still fine as well, right? I think that sometimes, for myself especially, I don't like to use those lockout functions. I like to just mentally have my, in the same way, mental stop losses or mental lockouts because I do want the flexibility to do it on my own, but also that comes with my experience of having faith in myself to do that. A big part of the reason why I am comfortable with taking losses and why I don't get too, involved in the tilt. And I'll make it clear, I'm not saying I don't tilt. I do. I just don't tilt as often as I used to. And when I do, it's not as bad as it used to be as well, right? The day gone are the days of where I would blow through five accounts in one day where I would keep resetting them over and over and over again, right? And a bunch of that has to do with two things I would say, right? And both quite similarly, but categorized in different ways. One is the win rate, right? So I know what my win rate is on the market. And so knowing that I have a high win rate gives me obviously the conviction that if I do lose my trade today, that I don't lose sleep over it and I don't let it get to me. Because I know that I have the probability to come at it again. The other terminology that is used is expected value, which essentially understanding is what is the expected value of me as a trader. And so I know that based on my batting average, I am very likely to get a win another time again. And because of that, I don't tilt as much as I used to. I don't try to double down and try to make up the money that I've lost before. I really just focus on the trade setup. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out and I move on to the next. That's also why I have multiple accounts. The reason for that is because that if I have like say 9 accounts, that means that I have the ability to take 9 separate trades, and by the end of the day, I would have only traded each of those accounts once, which means whether I'm losing or whether I'm winning, It's a little bit more digestible. I don't the eagerness to make it back or the eagerness to double down becomes less because I know that I'm flipping through the accounts, which also means that it takes a lot longer for me to, blow up my accounts, which would result in the tilt and all of that and the reset of the eval all over again. Like it's less likely I get there, right? And so as I go through this example here, I really want you to absorb and take away the perspective what that means. As I mentioned here, you can see that each of these accounts have a specific statistics when it comes to the win rate. And every given day, you can also see that there are some days that are great and some days that are not so great. You can see under each of the column or each of the rows, there are some days why I don't even trade those accounts at all. There are usually two reasons why I don't trade. One, it could be the fact I'm waiting for profits to be extracted before I trade again, because I will always secure the payout. I am not looking to try to get more than I need to just because I have that extra drawdown now. I focus on getting that payout, and you'll understand a little bit why when I get to the end here. Um, and the other reason why I won't trade is simply because as I'm going through the chart, there's not enough, setups to be honest on the market for me to even take a trade. So sometimes those accounts will just stay dormant and I don't touch them. So as we go on here, you can see here as I'm scrolling through, these accounts do inevitably do get blown at some point in time. And I can highlight that here is like, for example, this account here, I'm going to highlight actually in a color so it's easier for you to see. You can see that one gets blown later on at some point in the trade, right? This one as well gets blown. And then I had another one here as well. This one gets blown as well. And this one here gets blown. Oops, sorry. That one gets blown. And then as I continue to scroll to the side, those it. So out of those accounts, I have four accounts that would end up getting blown, right? And so you think like that's horrible, but because I was able to stagger my trades and take my losses and not double down and take it for what it is and be consistent with my approach on the market for how much I'm willing to risk and how much I'm willing to capture on the market, I was able to still get payouts on all of these accounts over the course of its time because of my understanding of my expected value. And what I really want to highlight here is that, as you can see here on the far right corner, and I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit more in hopes that this actually helps a little bit. Um, if you're going to scroll into the right-hand side here, you can see here that on each of these accounts, you can see a payout. Between all of these accounts, this month achieved $53,000 worth of payouts, right? And so if you take a look at here as well, these are the costs of these accounts. That includes the cost of the eval and the activation. Of course, it's based on the fact of you passing and getting funded and not failing over and over and over again. If there are more resets and what have you, this cost of these accounts would increase. But nevertheless, though, what perspective I'm trying to show here is that if you take these accounts and you trade them with discipline and you take your time at it, you don't double down, you don't try to make back losses. If you just simply can look at this with the binary approach of trading the setups that you have and being able to step away and walk away, which I know is very difficult. I don't want to make it sound like it's so easy, but this perspective I'm hoping is going to add some value in perspective is that you can see here that on these accounts, even though there are some really bad days and the win rate on them aren't amazing, you can still see that by the end, you'll still get a payout. And even on the worst case scenario of these payout accounts, right? The one that gets $2,300 only, that is still a pretty solid return considering the cost of the prop account. And so if you think about it that perspective of a return on investment, it's like every single time you buy an account, it's like you're buying into a business. And when you buy into a business, I mean, you wouldn't just burn your business and reset your business over and over and over again. You would treat it with a level of respect to see if you can get it to a payout. And so if you have not followed and watched my MNQ series, that will show you there and then that slow and steady is still better than not getting there at all, right? And as you see in the MNQ series, I was able to get funded within 14 days and paid out within 9 days following that, which means that it took about a month to get a payout from starting with the eval to the payout. Does that take a while? Sure. Especially when you're trading micros, right? But it shows you that it's possible. I know there are traders out there who have been trading for years who have not gotten a payout. And so understanding that slow and steady is still better than never getting there at all. So I think the perspective under understanding that when you have multiple accounts, you shouldn't have the need to constantly trade all the time. You don't have to always make up the loss. It's okay to just reset and have a new day and see what other setups will present themselves the following day or the following day after that. Because if you can be disciplined enough to not just tilt and blow your accounts, you'll be surprised with what you can achieve with the accounts that you have and look at the return on investment on those accounts specifically as well. So I'm hoping that that adds a little bit of value and understanding. I'm always more than happy to kind of dig into this a little bit more. I personally believe that this is probably a good perspective for a lot of people to take away because I don't think we treat these accounts seriously enough. And I think because of that, we end up degenning and getting caught up in the old arbitrary goals of things, right? So with that, if this you found this valuable, again, please like and subscribe. Drop comments below if you have anything. Until next time, I will provide you guys the next update again. Okay, I'll see you guys around.